Welcome back to my channel. While millions around the world were still reacting to what they had just witnessed in the ring, something far more intimate and deeply meaningful was unfolding away from the bright lights and roaring crowd. A moment that cameras were never meant to capture, and that wasn't designed for headlines or highlight reels, but for the people who truly understand what it means to carry this industry on their backs. Because once the final bell had rung and the broadcast had faded to black, once the cheers and chants had slowly begun to dissolve into echoes inside the massive arena, Roman Reigns and the Usos quietly made their way through the backstage corridors with a single purpose: to find John Cena and offer him a tribute that wasn't about characters, storylines, or eras clashing on television, but about one man acknowledging another, about respect being paid in its purest form, and about the unspoken bond shared by those who have sacrificed years of their lives to this business. As the SNME arena gradually emptied and production crews packed up equipment, the familiar chants of "Thank you, Cena" still lingered in the air like a final farewell, drifting through hallways that had seen countless legends pass through over the decades. And in one of those quiet corridors stood John Cena, alone, leaning against the reality of a journey that had spanned more than 20 years. A journey filled with triumphs, heartbreaks, victories, losses, and moments that defined an entire generation of wrestling fans. His body worn down from the physical toll and his emotions heavy from the significance of what the night represented, taking a rare moment of solitude to process the fact that the public chapter of his career had reached its conclusion. Yet unbeknownst to him, the most meaningful acknowledgments were still ahead. As footsteps echoed softly from the far end of the hallway and three familiar figures came into view, not rushing, not performing, but moving with a calm and respectful intention, Roman Reigns flanked by Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso, the very embodiment of the current era of WWE, approaching the man who symbolized the era that came before them. And in that simple walk down the corridor was a powerful image, the present stepping toward the past, not to erase it, but to honor it, because for Roman Reigns in particular, this was a moment layered with complexity, as the tribal chief had built his dominance by redefining WWE in his own image, by demanding acknowledgement, and by often distancing himself from those who paved the way before him. Yet standing there now was the undeniable truth that his reign, like all reigns, was made possible by the foundation laid by those who came earlier, and no figure represented that foundation more than John Cena. While for the Usos, the emotions ran just as deep. Having faced Cena countless times across different stages of their careers, sometimes as enemies, sometimes as obstacles, always as competitors who knew that stepping into the ring with him meant the spotlight would burn brighter. And as they came to a stop just a few feet away from Cena, there were no entrance themes, no dramatic pauses, no cameras zooming in for reaction shots. Just four men standing in a hallway stripped of all spectacle, leaving only honesty behind. And it was Roman who broke the silence first, his voice quieter than fans were used to hearing, absent of the commanding tone that usually accompanied his words, speaking not as a character but as a man, as he told Cena that what happened out there in the ring was for the fans, for the audience, for the history books. But what was happening here in this moment was different. This was personal. This was from his family to Cena, an acknowledgement that went beyond business and into legacy. As Jey Uso stepped forward next, emotion written clearly across his face, reminding Cena of the many battles they had fought, the countless times they stood on opposite sides of the ring, and how every single time Cena had a way of making it feel monumental, making it feel like the biggest moment of their careers, not by words alone but by the way he carried himself, by the way he elevated everyone around him, ensuring that when the night was over, his opponents felt bigger, more important, and more validated than they did before. With Jimmy Uso nodding alongside his brother, silently echoing the same sentiment, before Roman continued, telling Cena something that resonated deeply, that he didn't have to open the door for the next generation, that no one could have forced him to pass the torch, but he chose to do it anyway because he believed it was right for the business, because he understood that WWE was bigger than any one person, and that kind of selflessness created a debt that could never truly be repaid. And then came a gesture that spoke louder than any speech ever could, as Roman Reigns, the head of the table, placed his hand over his heart and offered Cena a slow, deliberate nod, a sign of respect rooted deeply in his culture, a silent salute that carried the weight of acknowledgement, gratitude, and honor, with the Usos mirroring the gesture beside him, standing unified in respect, and in that instant, the characters dissolved completely, leaving only men who understood what it meant to give everything to this industry, as Cena, visibly moved and fighting back emotion, returned the nod, his voice thick as he expressed his appreciation, knowing that respect like this was earned through years of dedication, sacrifice, and consistency, and as the four of them stood there for a moment longer, the significance of the exchange settled in, a passing of the torch not in front of a sold-out arena, but in a quiet hallway where truth mattered more than applause, raising the question of whether moments like this, unseen by the masses, carry more meaning than any public tribute ever could, because this was the heart of the business, the part that exists beyond storylines and championships, the part built on mutual respect and shared struggle, and as this exclusive glimpse into that private exchange reminds us, legacies aren't just defined by what happens under the lights, but by what happens when the cameras are gone. So if this moment resonated with you, if you believe this kind of respect is what truly defines greatness, make sure to share this video, subscribe, hit the bell, and join the conversation in the comments about what this passing of the torch means to you. Because one thing is clear, the legacy left behind is being carried forward by hands that understand its value. And as Roman Reigns and the Usos slowly stepped away, leaving John Cena alone once more in that quiet hallway, the weight of what had just taken place lingered far longer than any chant from the crowd ever could, because this wasn't a moment designed to go viral or trend online. It was a reminder of what truly binds generations together in this business, a shared understanding of sacrifice, pressure, and responsibility that only those who have lived it can fully comprehend. And as Cena took a deep breath and looked down the hallway they disappeared into, there was a sense of peace mixed with pride, knowing that the company he helped carry through eras of change was now firmly in the hands of men who respected its past while shaping its future. Moments like this don't happen often, and when they do, they rarely get witnessed, because they exist in the spaces between the noise, where ego fades and gratitude speaks louder than words. And that is why this backstage exchange matters so. It shows that beneath the larger-than-life personas are real people who recognize the importance of legacy, who understand that greatness isn't just about winning titles or headlining shows, but about lifting others and leaving the place better than you found it. And as the final chapter of John Cena's in-ring journey closes, stories like this remind us that his influence will continue to echo through every generation that follows, not just in highlights and memories, but in the respect he earned from those who now stand at the top. So if you appreciate these rare, behind-the-scenes moments that reveal the true soul of wrestling, stay connected right here, subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell.